Okay, so in order to get started, you need your micas. You're also going to need your melt and pour. It takes a little more than one container. You need a digital scale. This is my Old Faithful. Measuring cup, beakers, the loaf obviously, some alcohol, the fragrance, and the vanilla color stabilizer. Basically, let's just start cutting this soap up into chunks. I kind of make small chunks because those are going to melt more evenly in the microwave. It takes me a second because I'm kind of old and my hands hurt. So just get these pieces cut and into that measuring cup. The recipe that I'm going to add a link to calls for 7.35 ounces for each color in this rainbow soap. So you see my measuring cups over there on the scale, tared out, ready for the melt and pour to be added to it. I followed the recipe pretty closely, but might have taken a liberty here and there, just to get it done. Also, I noticed that the recipe says it takes approximately 2 hours. I'm here to tell you it took more like 3.5. But it's also very hot in Florida right now and very humid. So probably it took longer for my layers to set than it would in another part of the country or during the winter. It's just really hot here. So here we're measuring the melt and pour. When I get to 7.35 ounces, then that is ready to go into the microwave. I set my microwave at approximately 50% power. Now we're going to measure out the fragrance oil. The recipe called for 0.2 ounces for each layer. I don't make a lot of small batch stuff, so I don't have good-sized pipettes or whatever to pull out the fragrance oil with. I just have some handy-dandy eyedroppers, so it probably takes me a little longer than it needs to, but it gets the job done. So here we go, coming up to 0.2 ounces of fragrance oil. And you can see, it takes a minute. I'm doing this while my microwave melts that melt and pour. And then we're going to add the vanilla color stabilizer to the fragrance oil. It's coming, I promise. And this will help the fragrance oil stay less brown. It's one of those things that can frustrate us soap where vanillin causes soaps to turn brown and tan. This fragrance oil, I think, has 0.5 vanillin, 0.5%, so it would have turned tan if we didn't use the color stabilizer. So get 0.1 ounces of that stabilizer in and stir it well. You're going to let that sit for 2 minutes. I guess that activates it. Just following directions here. Okay, now we're ready to mix in our colorant. The soap was mostly melted. I don't let it get real hot. So you see there's still a little chunk. Just give it a stir and help that chunk melt. And of course, the first layer is going to be red. So get the red mica that came with the kit. I used 1/8 of a teaspoon of the mica. I don't think I said at the beginning of the video that you're going to need something to stir with, but obviously you're going to need something to stir with. So get the mica mixed into the soap really well. It's so pretty. And then add in your fragrance oil with the vanilla color stabilizer in it. and give that a good stir as well. And then you can just pour this directly into the mold. You don't have to worry about what temperature it is because it's the first layer. And once you've got this done, you'll have to let that red sit until it's completely cool and hard before you pour your next layer. Oh, and don't forget the alcohol in the little spray bottle, that goes on here. This helps pop air bubbles, and it also helps the soap accept the next layer. Everything gets sped up here because otherwise this video would be forever long. We're moving on to the orange, repeating the steps that we've already done. You're just gonna chop, weigh, melt. Again, try not to get your melt and pour boiling hot. So these layers from here forward, they cannot be over 130 degrees. If they are, when you pour them on top of your cooled layer, it's gonna melt it and you won't have nice crisp layers. See, this was too hot still. So there, we made it under 130. Good to go. Bring back your soap, spray it again, and then pour your next layer. Isn't that orange pretty, by the way? Moving on to yellow. Again, it's 1/8 teaspoon of the mica powder. Stir, stir, stir. I think probably another thing that took me a while was getting the melt and pour back down to 130 or less, because I wanted to make sure my layers were really nice and crisp. So that took a minute too, even though I didn't get it terribly warm in the microwave. I'm obviously very much in the habit of pouring into a loaf mold with cold process soap. You can see I go back and forth the same way I would pouring cold process. This green is lovely. I love these colors that came. They're the NuTone colors that came with the kit. Really bright and happy colors. Lots of pearliness. That's one of the things I love about melt and pour, is that the real beauty of your micas shows up. In cold process, it's just a color. But in melt and pour, it is pearlescent and sparkly and dynamic. Finally getting the blue one. Again, beautiful blue color. I was really thanking my lucky stars we only had one color left now, because this was 3 hours in. Add the fragrance oil, stir it up. Don't forget to spray. I probably cut it out of the video, but spray between each pour twice. Once when you first sprayed it or poured it in, and then again before you pour the next layer, or when you go to cut this bar, it will separate. Well, there it is. Isn't it pretty? Thanks for watching my video.